Hello and welcome back to the Elements of Deep Sea Mining. In the last episode, you heard the full deep sea mining debate between Oliver Gunasekera and Victor Vescovo. After we wrapped the formal event, the three of us stayed on the line to talk about how to disagree, how to handle a topic as contentious as deep sea mining without it turning into a personal or a tribal fight. Oliver and Victor continued to disagree, sometimes strongly, but I think it's worth hearing how their disagreements remain over substance and don't become disagreements about character. It's a reminder that many people across this conversation are ultimately working towards the best outcome as they see it. That follow-on conversation is what you're about to hear. Let's get straight to it.
Eric, thank you for doing it, for being the moderator. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me.
How did it go? I mean, we are recording, by the way, so...
Yeah, good. That was, I wanted to double check that you're on top of that. I thought it went great. I was really happy, particularly with the audience engagement. I think that they were good questions, and I was a little bit worried that there would be more contentious audience.
Yes, but people were very respectful from the audience. Yeah.
Hello, I made it.
Hi, Victor. We're recording this as well, so give you a heads up.
Great.
Yeah, we're recording this as I think as usual with the podcast. We have the chance to edit beforehand. I'll send it to both of you to get approval. So if you say something now that you regret, then we won't publish.
I wish I had this for my life.
Yes.
So thanks for agreeing to join me here. I'll keep this to, I guess we've got 24 minutes. We'll stay within that. Mostly, I'm interested. So we ended that conversation with kind of some agreement that public debate like this is valuable for contentious, important topics like deep sea mining. And so I'm interested as people who are involved in this topic in the public debate. How do we manage a publicly contentious topic? Is there a right and a wrong answer to the deep sea mining question? And is the best thing to do to kind of get everybody into their corners and fight it out? Or is the point here that everyone is kind of collectively moving towards the jointly optimal solution, and we can just kind of talk it through and all arrive on the same page? If that makes sense as a question, Victor, I'm interested in hearing your thoughts.
Yeah, I think I'm a strong believer in this country and our process, democratic in the political sphere and capitalism in the economic one. So what I would come down to is, as I kind of ended the debate, I said, look, if Oliver can get the funding and build his Eureka 3 and Eureka 4, get permits from government to do some analysis in an EEZ, you know what? Okay, I'm not going to try and, chain myself to his ships and stop him from doing it. I think that if you can prove that you actually have a technology that is 90% more cost effective than anything terrestrially, how could I not say, okay, that's interesting?
Are you going to invest? Maybe we'll get you as an investor.
I don't know about that, but I would say that would be revolutionary. But I just don't think that will happen. And we will agree to disagree on that. Yep. And I think that the potential damage that you could do on the seafloor, also we agree to disagree. It's not zero. It's probably, you think it's less than I think it is, that kind of thing. So I think, yeah, in some respects, Eric, it is kind of, each into your corner and, you fight it out, but in a polite and respectful way. I can't know what's going to happen with his technology, neither does he. Nor do we know what's going to happen to the price of nickel and cobalt. If the price of nickel, cobalt, and manganese goes down by 50%, their model doesn't work. He knows it and I know it, but it could double.
No mining operation will also.
Right. I mean, but it could also double and you would make billions and billions. You don't know. So the issue is you have to come up with some kind of political and economic accommodation for each side to prove the information we don't know. Over to you, Oliver.
Yeah, I mean, look, this is a tech startup that now wants to be a mining company. Have we solved all of the technical issues? No. You're right, Victor, we haven't built Eureka 3, we haven't tested Eureka 3. But what we have built gives us a high degree of confidence that it will work and it will be economic. And, we're here every day, right, we're putting all of ourselves into this. We wouldn't be doing it if we didn't believe it. And, we, like you, we have a track record, we've had successes. I don't have to actually work. I've had a couple of successes. I'm doing this because I believe it's the right thing to do. And, will we get there exactly when we say? It may take longer, but we have a very well-proven strategy of develop, test, learn, improve, and keep going. And this is what Tesla does, is what SpaceX does, it's what every successful physical AI company does. When you're trying to build something that's never been done before, you have to keep doing it, testing it. When it doesn't work, learn and fix.
Oliver, let me pull you back to the question of the public discussion. I imagine that you actually invited Victor to have this debate, that you instigated.
I did.
This. Why do you spend your time on these webinars, on these debates? I'm sure you've got lots to do in technology development. Why is this worth doing?
Because we are a young company. We're less than 20 people. We've been going now 5 years. Not most people who know about deep sea mining know the dredging tractor and riser system. And I think we have a story to tell where we are trying to balance the environmental impact with using technology to change that equation. And I don't think that story gets told.
I agree.
People are binary, I'm against deep sea mining, but you have to be against an approach of deep sea mining, which means the tech. And to me, that doesn't get out there. And I think, Victor, you would agree, if we deliver on what we say, our economics, our environmental, I think it's going to be hard to oppose, because compared to the alternatives, it's infinitely better.
Yeah, I can't be disingenuous, but on a pure math basis, one would have to scrutinize the environmental impacts more. But yes, if you have a system that, but again, I don't believe that you will. So that colors everything. Yeah. But yeah, if you can produce metal, the handful of metals that you're going to get for 90% less than anything terrestrially, there's no way that the math doesn't work in your favor from an environmental overall cost standpoint. But I simply don't believe that that's realistic. I've never seen that. I've never seen anyone in any industry come up with a technology that reduces 90% of a cost on a well-established industrial process. And that's why I'm also very highly suspicious. And I also do believe, Oliver, with great respect, while you have had some successful startups and done other things, you have not operated in the deep ocean for 4 straight years like I did, and seeing everything that breaks and having unknown unknowns bite you over and over again. And you're talking about fleets of vehicles. There's just a lot of things that you're going to have to wrestle with in the open ocean that I think are going to surprise you, that are very negative. It is a harsh environment.
I agree.
I know.
But one thing. Yeah. So I don't have the experience, but our CTO has 25 years experience of operating in a deep ocean and building, and so does many of our team. And I'm not hands-on building this. So that's the one thing I would say. And then I will give you an example of an order or 2 orders of magnitude cost reduction. SpaceX. You look at the cost that they would with a reusable rocket versus the other way, they offered like 2 orders of magnitude lower cost to orbit, proven. So this does happen. It builds very transformational businesses. I agree it's rare, but it does happen.
Right. I wouldn't say it's 2 orders of magnitude. I'm actually an investor in SpaceX. It's more like 1 order of magnitude from what the trajectory was. But the point is taken, that there can be, but I don't believe this is one.
Yeah, Starship will add another 2 orders of magnitude on top.
I know.
I know. So I know you both want to talk about the technology. I see my role in the deep sea mining conversation as kind of being a bit of the kumbaya. Let's try to talk about where we agree, and let's not have this conversation be counterproductive to finding out the answers to the questions that I think everybody recognizes that the deep sea mining debate involves. And so I'm going to try to keep us on, how we have this conversation constructively. Where you see the greatest misunderstandings in public discourse, I'm interested in hearing from both of you what you think that people on the other side, because I've talked to both of you and I've kind of heard you say people on that side of the fence tend to misunderstand or underemphasize certain things. I'm interested in hearing where you think the other side is misfocusing their attention. Oliver, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's economics. It's that if you talk to mining executives, they will tell you the biggest driver of economics is grade. Right? If you go from a 20% grade to a 0.5% grade, that has massive impacts because that's how much material you have to dig out of the ground. And we have very, very high grade. We also have 4 metals in one, and we don't have to tunnel or blast, and we don't have to build roads and power plants. And so even if you exclude what tech is used, the resource, Benchmark Mineral Intelligence, $600 per metric ton is their estimate of the value of a nodule. An average mine is about $200 to $300.
But do you see, the people who are pushing hardest against deep sea mining, I don't see them as being particularly focused on the economic question. It's interesting that you raise economics as the thing that people are misunderstanding.
I agree.
When I see that the pushback is coming from, it's scary that you are going to go into the ocean and disrupt things.
Yeah, and this is where technology discussion doesn't enter, because they are opposed to the ocean is a pristine environment. It's unique. It has specialized life, which I completely agree with. It's all unique, and we haven't disturbed it, and so we shouldn't. But what they miss is what is the knock-on consequences of that? How many people will die in Africa because of that result? How many rainforests will be destroyed? And how does technology change the impact? Because a dredging that we invented 50 plus years ago that removes 90% of the nodules and 2-3 centimeters of the seabed floor and all of the micro life there, versus a Eureka 3 that hovers and removes 6%, protecting any octopus or other. It's a very different impact. And that, I think, rarely makes the discussion. Thanks,
Oliver. Victor, I'm going to let you do psychologize about the pro-deep sea mining camp, and what do you see them as missing or under or overemphasizing?
Sure. First, I'll agree with Oliver. I think that the environmental debate on deep sea mining, and I would not consider myself an environmentalist. I'm a full-blooded capitalist. And I think that the environmental debate has distracted from the core issue, which is the economics and the viability of it. But to your point on what people are missing, in my view, is, as I brought up in the debate, the relevance. It drives me to distraction that anyone mentions rare earth metals in the same zip code as deep sea mining, because it's just not economic. And yet people, they use that national security angle with rare earth elements of all things to try and justify deep sea mining. But then even if you just take the 4 metals that are involved in nodule collection, even then I think that it's relatively narrow. And I think that that's one thing that's not as appreciated by the deep sea mining community, that they really were riding the surf wave of the huge spike in metals prices in the early 2020s. And that generated a lot of interest, combined with electric vehicle batteries. The big banner that they had out in the early 2020s was, we need to do deep sea mining in order to electrify the world. Well, that narrative isn't working anymore. No one's paying attention and no one cares about ESG. And so they have to have a new narrative. And they're saying, oh, I think I applaud Oliver that you do have a good business strategy of saying, no, this is about cost competitiveness. That one I actually buy. That's actually realistic. I just don't think you can do it. But I think that that's what most of the DSM community is doing. They're playing bait and switch, going from, we need these metals for the electric transition. Oh, wait, now we need them for national security. I think both of them were bogus. The economic one that Oliver is pitching, I think it is actually valid. I just don't think it'll work. So my hat's off to you, Oliver, that you of all of them are the least bad.
Thank you. I'll take it. Yeah. I mean, we don't believe the rare earths make sense. I mean, they're not in our economic model. You know, you're going all the effort to pick them up. So maybe if it becomes very strategic, but right now
they're so hard to process.
Okay, then, Victor, I'm interested more in, so you sort of oppose deep sea mining. You know, you.
Well, I'm not an absolutist. I think being an absolutist, like saying no deep sea mining ever under any circumstances, that shows a closed mind. And I wouldn't be successful if I didn't open my mind to possibilities. If it costs zero to mine the seafloor and had absolutely minimal environmental impact, well, duh, you know, yeah, then you would do. I mean, come on. I mean, that's illogical. And I am a logical man. So you have to calibrate everything, because otherwise we would never produce anything. We would never leave our houses.
So yeah, so you're out here making the arguments that you want to see made better. I understand you want to push on this economic piece. You are trying to fill a gap, I guess, that you see some of the other organizations that are pushing against deep sea mining are not focusing on where you want to focus. You would focus on.
Well, and you know, definitely the metals company, but to some degree, I think Impossible Metals as well. They're in a race against time. So they're trying to rush to raise as much money as possible to deploy their technology to get it in the ocean. And I think what the anti-deep sea mining community is trying to do is saying, slow down, you know, build your tech, study the environment, prove to us over, actually, unfortunately, it takes several years, that you can do what you say you're going to do and that the environmental damage is not near as bad as you say it's going to be, you know, et cetera. Slow it down and maybe do it. I don't believe in a ban either. And so therefore, I think that's the compromise that has to be made here. But unfortunately, I think that what the deep sea mining community is worried is that with greater technological substitution on EV batteries, is it'll become more and more apparent that you don't need these metals from the ocean. You can get them terrestrially because the prices are going to keep coming down.
So I think the battery argument is a red herring, because 80% of nickel doesn't go into batteries.
Yeah, steel.
It's exactly. So it's a red herring. And also, you know, we have probably the world's expert on battery chemistry on our advisory board, Bob Gallion, CTO of CATL American. You know, he will tell you that there's no battery chemistry gets 100%. You know, LFP, the iron phosphorus, is very good for China, where they don't care about range. Really pretty bad for the US, because we need range. We don't have the high-speed train network that links every city. So, you know, every battery chemistry has pros and cons. The LFP technology is much heavier. You give up a third of your range. And then there's LMR, which is the lithium manganese that Ford and GM are pushing hard. That's a manganese rich. It still uses nickel and cobalt, but it actually reduces the amount of nickel and puts more in manganese. Ford and GM are pushing that very heavily. So I am not in a rush because I worry about battery chemistry. So that has no concern to me. I have the world experts that tell me about what's happening in.
Well, I would be, and they are different. And NMC batteries using nickel and cobalt, they do have longer range, but they also last 1/3 as long. They also catch fire. They also don't work well in extreme low temperatures. So there are trade-offs involved. And there are improvements in lithium iron phosphate and especially sodium ion that have not even run their full course compared to NMC. My point being is that battery. The key thing for me, though, is that it was battery technology that was going to be driving the increase in demand that required more deep sea mining. If you don't have that kicking up of demand from electric vehicles for nickel and cobalt, you're at more or less steady 2 or 3% growth in the need for those metals, like nickel for steel, in which case the demand profile is significantly different. You just don't need DSM.
So it's an interesting theory, but it's flawed, because you now have additional applications that are driving demand for nickel and cobalt, defense being one. You know, NATO has now decided, actually, it's pretty big. I mean, the cobalt, as you keep pointing out, the cobalt market is not huge in kilotons. So defense will actually move the needle quite a bit because there's significant amount of cobalt in these specialized alloys. There's data centers. Data centers were never in the forecast. They're now forecast to have significant amounts of copper, and there is bits of nickel and cobalt. So look, the demand curve, $1 trillion TAM, I'm pretty happy about that. And that factors in all of these demands. And will it be 900 billion? Will it be 1.1? These numbers can vary, but it's a massive, massive market. So,
well, I agree, but look what happened in the United States. We just opened this massive copper mine in Arizona. That will produce more copper by multiples than what you will be producing at Impossible Metals. Terrestrial mines, it's like David and Goliath. The sheer scale of the terrestrial mining industry, to say it dwarfs what DSM will actually produce is an insult to dwarfs. It's in a financial accounting standpoint, less than 3% of global production. It's immaterial. The only one where you make a big difference in manganese, and you would produce so much manganese and flood that market, you would collapse the market price.
well, as I said, manganese is going into batteries now, so there are newer applications.
Only a small subset of batteries are going to be using a lot of manganese. The big revolutionary ones are lithium iron phosphate and now sodium ion. Sodium ion is coming on strong and led by the Chinese. And those batteries are cheap as hell, and they're actually pretty good performance.
Yeah, 97% of LFP iron phosphorus is made in China. 97%. So if the whole of the Western world went to LFP, we are ceding another big control point.
Yeah, but you don't do anything with phosphorus.
We don't, but phosphorus is actually used for fertilizer. So if all of the world's batteries went to LFP, there wouldn't be enough phosphorus to feed us.
Which is why there's sodium ion. My point being is that what it's really about is nickel, metal, and cobalt batteries, which have absolutely significantly declined their market share over the last 4 or 5 years. And that is what drives the price decline in cobalt nickel over the last 5 years. Cobalt went from about $60,000 a ton. It's down to 40. It went down to 25 until they actually put export restrictions on cobalt because there was an oversupply. Nickel is below 15,000 a ton now. It's at 14.5.
Yep.
It was at 50 just like 3 or 4 years ago. So the slope of those lines is down, not up.
But I mean, the supply and the demand, especially in the battery space, is very linked. They worked hard to get away from cobalt because of cost and public image. They worked hard to get away from nickel for same reasons. Isn't it the case that if they get a lot better nickel market, better being cheaper, better being less ESG concerns? I'm not sure how much these ESG concerns really matter, but there is a lot of awareness, I think, now of the problems in the nickel market. So won't that kind of re-encourage the NMC batteries that are sort of better for range? And
we're talking to automotive guys to do offtake agreements. We can allow them to make an NMC pack cheaper than an LFP or an iron phosphorus pack. So that's super compelling because now you get a third more range. 200-mile range goes to 300 miles, and you get it at a lower cost, and you make it in North America. So these markets are dynamic, but it doesn't matter. Nickel, we've got 4 metals. Demand is through the roof long term.
Theoretically, IEA is not a forecast. It's an aspiration.
But there's not, it's World Bank, it's not just IEA. And it's just like globalization. Over the last 30 years, so many people moved from rural peasants working in the field to now in cities. That trend continues. Africa will urbanize quite rapidly, and so will other places over the next 30 years. Guess what happens to the mineral intensity when you move from a rural activities to a city?
It goes higher. I'm just saying you're not going to get it from the sea cost effectively. You're going to get it from terrestrial mines, which supplies everything now.
So I believe we could, 10% by 2035. The TAM for the seabed is maybe 10% of the market could be sourced from seabed. Remember, the seabed is a bigger resource than land for nickel, cobalt, and manganese.
Yeah, so is asteroid Psyche, but you can't get to it effectively.
Okay, I want to respect you guys' time. I really appreciate this. I think it's valuable for people who watch the deep sea mining public conversation, see it as very contentious, who watch you two debate, to also see the kind of conversations that happen when you're just talking with one another. You're still on this topic. It's very, you've got your disagreements, but they are on the issues and they're constructive. And I think that that's valuable for people to see and to put into context. So thanks a lot.
Yeah, one final point, if you don't mind, I was just for you, Victor. I mean, you've built submersibles. You understand. Are you not impressed with the tech that we've built? Right? You know, we've built a buoyancy system. We've built robotic arms. We've built a smart hook. There's a lot of dual use applications for this technology. So even outside of deep sea mining, I think we're moving the state of the art of subsea technology significantly forward.
Well, I hope so. I'm developing a new manipulator arm that's not even hydraulic. It's electric for full ocean depth. So
this is electric.
It crosses both ways. No, I get it. But I'm saying when you go below 6,000 meters, hydraulics are a problem, and electric even doesn't work. So anyway, my point being is that, like, I love that you're advancing the tech. I hope to one day license or use your tech. That would be great. We're all in this together. We just disagree. But I just can't tell you, Oliver, how respectful I am that you invited me to the debate. We don't talk over each other. We disagree, but it's just so bloody refreshing to be able to have a constructive debate with someone you disagree with. You remind me of family members I have that I violently disagree with, but you know, we get along, and it's actually enjoyable, and you can actually learn something too.
Yeah, and Victor, I give you an open invite. If you want to come to our lab here in north of Toronto and see the actual thing and talk to the people, open invite.
I'm not coming up there in winter.
No, well, yeah. Let's get. It's about 3-4 degrees today, but it can get to minus 20 Celsius in the next month or two.
Yeah, thank you for that invitation, and thank you, Eric, for putting all this together.
Yeah,
I think it was very constructive and hopefully helpful to the debate.
Okay, thanks a lot, guys.
Thank you.
Cheers. Take care, Oliver. Take care, Eric.